Perfect.
Perfect. We're both Filipino, so I'm glad I was able to pronounce that correctly. John is a hands-on architect technology executive with more than 15 years of experience building mission-critical solutions. And he holds his Bachelor of Science degree in electrical engineering with a minor in computer science from New York University Polytechnic School of Engineering. Let's give him a warm UAT welcome.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, UAT. Thank you for the faculty, and thank you for having us here. And thank you for your attendance. We really appreciate it. I'm very glad to be here to present to you. I have a very optimistic presentation to you. I plan to make you full-stack developers in 40 minutes. Does everyone know what a full-stack developer is? If not, I will tell you. I'm going to speak pretty quickly because I have a lot to cover. Full stack means you can do user interface. You can do HTML, DHTML. In the stack, you have the front end, you have the presentation layer, you have the middle tier. So full stack, you go into the middle tier as well as the back end, so the database, where we save the data. Everybody ready for that? Let's go for a ride. So here's the outline, everything we're going to cover. Something that is very familiar to me that we use at Campus Logic, we're going to go through AngularJS, a front-end framework, and Microsoft.NET stack. That's going to include the C#, ASP.NET, Web API, and SQL Server. Other stacks, so that's Mean Stack. Anybody have heard of the Mean Stack? Fantastic. So Mean Stack is open source. It uses Mongo as a backend, MongoDB, Express as a web server, AngularJS, and Node.js. In going through the Mean Stack, we're going to go through some advanced JavaScript programming concepts. We'll dig into relational database programming. So right now, what's everyone is using is not just relational, but also NoSQL databases, storing things in blobs, storing things as a whole instead of chopping it up and breaking it up. Too much detail. We'll also go through Java. So quite a few stacks, technology stacks. Java Servlet API, JSP, JMS, the whole alphabet soup of Java. We'll also get into advanced message queuing, AMQP, and some implementations. And we'll touch upon cloud computing, very important right now. Everybody ready? Fantastic, let's do it. Okay, it's a big lie. That's
Slides available for?
yeah, they're here, yes, absolutely, and I can give them to you.
Okay.
But I do tell untruths. For me to cover all that information in 40 minutes, it would be difficult. It would be quite a challenge, even at the rate that I'm speaking. Yeah, I am a New Yorker. I speak fast, but I've slowed it down a little bit. I've been here for quite some time now. So in preparing for this, I thought to myself, wow, 40 minutes, that's a long time to be speaking. I'm very brief. I don't have that much to say. However, if I were in your shoes, if I were a student in this day, what would I want to hear? If I were you, what would I want a speaker to speak about? So here's what I put down, the real outline. I'll tell you about me, about the path I've taken, the things I've learned, my work experience, keys to success, keys to my success, as well as, in general, hopefully keys that will be elements to your success as well. I want to give you my insight on the job search process and the interview process just because I've interviewed a lot myself as the candidate. And I've interviewed quite a few people. Being in a small company now, I have an even better perspective because we're very small. In a startup, everyone does everything. I do my own recruiting. I do my own HR. So the perspective has even broadened from before joining Campus Logic. And then hopefully we'll have some time for some live code, show you in reality the things that were critical to my development as a software engineer and developing software. And then we'll end with the Q&A. Sound more realistic? Yeah. All right.
Oh, I was hoping to learn everything.
So I am definitely in violation of presentation practices. I put a lot of words in these slides. Surprisingly, I've already filtered them down. So beginning with my education, like was mentioned, I actually had a late start. I was a slacker. I have some challenges. I have ADHD. I'm also, I have a fear of crowds, fear of talking to others, quite a few things to overcome. I also wasn't too sure exactly what I wanted to do. So I started out in community college. I knew I obtained electrical engineering technology degree, 2-year degree, and I moved on to a 4-year institution and obtained my bachelor's in electrical engineering with a minor in computer science. Why did I pursue engineering? Well, a few things. I enjoyed building and making things work, and I also operated on the principle of laziness. I only read fiction, nonfiction. I don't read very much. I have a horrible memory, so everything has to make sense to me. Engineering was easy. Electrical engineering, there was one equation. V equals IR. Voltage is equal to the current times the resistance, and everything was based on that. Nothing to memorize, nothing to commit to memory except for that one equation. That was bliss to me. Bliss. So I was very fortunate. A lot of these things, the topic said talk about things that you're proud of, talk about your achievements. I see them more as opportunities. I had an opportunity to have a summer internship with Consolidated Edison. And think of Con Ed as the SRP of New York City. It was a fantastic opportunity and something that I would strongly advise all your students to try to pursue. Try to look for those opportunities, those scholarships, those internships before you graduate. In my situation, it provided me a springboard to full-time employment. Upon graduation, this was in the early 90s, so I'm dating myself, times were difficult. The economy was down. Real estate was an absolute downturn. Jobs were hard to come by. I was in an engineering school, and many of my peers had difficulty finding jobs, except for the chemical engineers. They had multiple offers. I don't know if that's still the case now, but they had it far easier than everyone else. I had the option to either pursue my master's through a research grant or work a full-time job with Con Edison. Because of the times, I chose Con Edison. So I spent actually quite some time with Con Edison. I was fortunate enough to be brought into a management intern program. So although I was coming in with an engineering degree, they put a group of us into this program that geared us for upper management at some point, or leadership positions. They gave us 3-month rotating assignments. Each assignment was almost like a new job. So every 3 months, new job, adjustment, something to learn. With my ADD, it was fantastic. Sorry, ADHD. Year 2, same company, 6-month assignments. Again, perfect. Constant change for me, constant learning. Always being in an uncomfortable state, pushing me out of my comfort zone. And that's something that's critical, that's been critical to my growth. Year 3, it was a 1-year stint at a power generation maintenance. And then 2 years I spent in central engineering, working on transmission engineering. And then the 7th year is when I transitioned from engineering to IT. So the 7 years in engineering, and I put quotes engineering because it was a lot of things. It was maybe 20% engineering, but a lot of soft skills, honing my presentation skills, honing my communication skills, being able to work with others, being able to adjust. It's like going to a new school every few months or every assignment. It just forces you to grow and forces you to learn. During these assignments, I interacted with not only as a peer, but also as a supervisor with various resources, various skills, including mechanics, welders, technicians, fellow engineers, as well as upper management. Again, it kept pushing me to constantly grow. Why did I switch? Why did I switch from engineering? Well, again, there's that ADHD again. Because this was a power company, not a whole lot of innovation, mostly maintenance. And I got bored. I saw myself getting bored. Economics was part of it too. The salaries where it was, at the time of the dot-com boom, it was about to bust, but it's during the boom that I transitioned to IT. So part of it was economics, and what I saw in software development was constant change. Technology is always changing. You know, it's always learning, and I enjoyed that, and that was the switch. So thereafter, I spent a year at Deloitte & Touche as a software consultant, and that's when we moved to this fantastic state of Arizona. And I spent 10 years as a consultant with Sogeti Phoenix. Various levels, starting with senior consultant, ending up as a principal consultant. Between that time and my current post, I had other opportunities, again, senior level roles in various industries, including the airline industry, education, and a large hosting company. And feel free to stop me. If you go like this, I know you're getting bored, so I'll speed it up. But if I don't see you making hand gestures, I'll just, keep going. Okay, and this is what I call the opportunities, things that I'm proud of that I had the opportunity to take part in. The first, I'm not going to read all of them, but the first two were in engineering. And then even up till now, helping various companies succeed using technology. Being able to build mission-critical enterprise systems that are still being used today, some as old as 2003, and they're still being used. So I'm very proud of that. I did quite a few training sessions with numerous companies when Microsoft.NET, at the time, this was in the early 2000s, new technology first came out. So a lot of boot camps with .NET. And I enjoy mentoring and coaching younger developers and seeing them grow their careers. And of course, currently at Campus Logic, helping make the financial aid experience awesome. Current duties and responsibilities. It seems like there's not enough space. Again, in keeping with my ADHD, it's not limited. It's not just architecture. It's not just design. It can be anything. It's not just looking at technology. It's anything from assisting Chris with defining products. Coding still. I still have an opportunity to code, creating reference implementations for existing and future projects, troubleshooting. You can see Skunkworks projects. Chris kind of touched upon that. Just, hey, this is a great technology. I think maybe it's something we can use, but let's give it a try. Let's see what we can do with it. Skunkworks, under the covers. Then when it's done, go, lo, behold. You didn't expect this. And talent acquisition, which are just fancy words for headhunting, finding new talent.
Not answering all Chris's stupid questions.
All right, so now we'll get into some general keys to success. And these are things that some of them I did, some of them I didn't do at all. I wish I would have done. So build your network. We're going to dig into the details of what's behind these. Build your public profile. Again, it's that antisocial aspect that made that difficult for me, but it shouldn't be for you. Communication skills. Continue to learn. Don't let it stop. Set goals for yourself, and then seek out mentors. So let's dig into the details. Build your network. This is so important. What does it mean? It means building your relationships with everyone around you, because you never know. It's such a small world, especially in the valley. When you can reach out to your peer now, it might be a coworker in the future. Build your network with your teachers, your professors, your friends, acquaintances of significance. And use social media. Build up your network using social media responsibly. Media like LinkedIn. I don't Twitter, but please feel free to use Twitter. Build your public profile. Again, this is something that I had a late start in. I resisted it. This was back in maybe mid to late 2000s. Something that I resisted. Do not do that. I advise you. How many have a LinkedIn account? Fantastic. Get it in there. Put it in there now and complete your profile. And hopefully you have all your profile completed. You have your skills there. Contacts. Endorse your contacts. What does that do? By endorsing others, they'll endorse you. Hopefully honest endorsements. Recommendations. When you graduate, people like me are going to ask you, please furnish 3 to 4 people who can recommend you. If you put it on LinkedIn, if you ask for them on LinkedIn, it's so much easier. It's easier for the person who will recommend you because all they have to do is submit it in LinkedIn, have you review it, and you have it in place, and it's there for you to use throughout your interview process and throughout your career. Having a nice list of recommendations looks fantastic to eyes like myself and Chris. Post your work. Whether it's LinkedIn or somewhere else, be public and try not to think, oh, this is not significant, or what if someone criticizes it? It's okay. Post your work, get it out there because you make use of the community. The open source community is fantastic. Whether it's software or not, you'll get feedback. And it's okay. If it's positive, fantastic. Kudos, right? If it's negative, maybe it's constructive criticism. Maybe you thought you had this fantastic algorithm, but you missed a small piece of it. The community is going to come in and give you feedback and say, hey, John, you know what? You missed these items. You can improve this by doing this, this, and this. Fantastic learning. Again, something that I was resistant to, only open to now. And of course, keep your profile up to date. Your contacts, your network, your profile, treat them like you're growing a garden. Water them, feed them, fertilize them, right? And keep growing it. And of course, you can connect your LinkedIn account with your Twitter account.
I just tried to tweet you. No, I just tried to.
Hey, I got something. Fantastic. Fantastic.
While you were saying it, I was doing it.
So communication skills, this is so important. You can be the most fantastic software developer, the most fantastic software engineer, but typical of the personality, if you're a math and sciences guy, you're usually reserved. You want to be left alone. Let me do my thing in my little corner. But you want to be heard. You want to be able to present. You want to communicate your ideas. And good electives to take, I'm not sure if they're required, but when I was taking grade school, I didn't have to take public speaking. I didn't have to take technical writing. And I had to battle with my son at the time when he was in high school because he had no technical writing, and all his writing had quotations and flowery words. And I had to say, son, you have to take that out. So that's part of technical writing. And I guarantee you, sometime in your career, maybe you're already doing it now, you will be presenting. You will be presenting numerous times, and you will be selling ideas, maybe selling yourself. At work, you could be presenting ideas, recommendations. You might be pitching to clients if you're into consulting. Most likely, you'll be justifying your promotion and your salary increase. So the more practice you have in doing this, the more convincing you'll be. And ultimately, you want your voice to be heard, especially in larger companies. If you don't speak, if you don't communicate, you get lost. You get lost in the crowd. You want to stand out. Learning. Part of why I switched to software development, there's always something to learn. Always. My mind is always racing. Racing, there's that ADHD again. Racing, thinking about problems, thinking about solutions. Don't let your education stop at UAT. It's a fantastic achievement once you've graduated from here, but continue it. Seek out training if possible. So if you're in software development, seek out training online. Seek out opportunities to learn more. Act like, I put this quote, shark on a feeding frenzy. Be on a feeding frenzy for knowledge. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is money. Get certified if there are certifications in your field. If, for example, if you're a network specialist, there are Cisco certifications. If you're into Microsoft development, there's MCSD certifications. As far as technology, if you're a software developer, try not to be limited. Don't limit yourself to a single programming language or a single platform or a single framework or a single operating system. Be open, and you'll be a much better resource, especially in the eyes of employers. Similar to, I think Chris touched upon this a little bit, the iterative process, constant improvement. There's a word called Kaizen. It's Japanese, and it says continuous improvement, incremental continuous improvement. It's practiced in manufacturing, and software development adopted it, but you can practice it in life in general as well. Goals, again, something I was not very good at, but have goals for yourself. Have immediate, short-term, and long-term goals. Assess your goals on a regular basis. Adjust them as needed. You might find that, hey, some of these goals I'm not going to be able to achieve because they were not realistic. Well, you can adjust them to make them so. Technology, just because I'm technology focused, some ideas for goals are obtain training, achieve certification, learn new languages, learn new frameworks. Work-related, very key once you get your first job. The best time to look for a job is when you have one. The best time to, plan for your next level is when you're not there yet. You want to find out, okay, what's the criteria for this particular promotion? And that could be your set of goals. Knock those elements out, whatever that list is. Come review time, you go, bam, I am now this. And it's very hard to argue. Mentors. Again, they were probably tapping my shoulder around me, and it just wasn't in my radar. But find mentors. They might find you. You might attract them. You can attract them by making yourself a great mentee, striving to be the best at what you do. It sounds cliche, but there was a VP. This was his mantra. He said, "Be the best." I still remember his name. It was 50 years ago, something like that. His name was Michael J. Evans. He said, "Strive to be the best. Whatever you're doing, strive to be the best." You want to be eager to learn. You want to seek out more responsibility. The previous keys to success, make that part of this process. And like I said in the beginning, mentors may gravitate towards you, so keep your eyes and ears open, because you're looking for a mentor, but mentees who see this, who see the talent, are more than open and willing to be your mentor. And there are more likely people you already know and people who see your potential. And it can start in school and then proceed to work as well. Hopefully I'm not putting anyone to sleep. All this making sense? You're finding this helpful? Fantastic. Okay, now things that are maybe a little bit more important to you. As a potential employer at Campus Logic, what do I look for in a candidate? I look at your education. I look to have that you have a solid foundation. I want to see a positive attitude. Someone who's positive, someone that has a can-do approach. Chris touched upon it also, but if I'm looking for a software developer, I don't look for just one language. I don't look for just one technology. You'll see jobs out there that say, oh, I just want a report writer. I just want someone who knows how to do Kendo UI. I just want someone who can do SQL Server, very specific. What I look for is someone who has a foundation, has a few languages under their belt, but they have the ability to learn. So no matter what the need may be, it may be now, it may be in the future, that this candidate has the potential to learn it and pick it up quickly. Communication skills, so we've covered that. Someone who can speak, someone who can interact, and work with the team, as a team. Ability to work well with others. And of course, you want to have the passion for technology. Whether you're a software developer or not, you're going to be either writing software or you're most likely going to be consuming software. So having a passion for it, even if you try to fake it a little bit, is very important. Job search. So this is something that I haven't been writing in my career. Maybe a few times I did. But now that the applications go directly to me, the people who have written their cover letters, they stand out. They stand out. It shows to me that they've put the effort into it, they've read the job description, and they said, hey, this is how my skills, my current skills, translate to what you're looking for. The other thing a cover letter does is it shows me a sample of your writing skills. So they're very important. If you're targeting a particular job, a particular company, put the effort into writing a customized cover letter because you will stand out. I'm sure you get a lot of tips and classes on resume writing, so I didn't put a whole lot in here other than keeping it clean and simple. Review recommendations from various job sites, your Monsters, your Indeeds. Take in all of those recommendations. Review your resume, make sure there's no spelling errors, make sure you have it well organized, highlight your skills, and have others take a look at your resume. Sometimes when you write it, you're so glossed over you can't see any corrections, any issues, because you don't want to see it anymore if you're like me. You just want to get it over with. Interview preparation. Know what's on your resume. Make it truthful. Be prepared to answer anything and everything on your resume. And similar to a presentation, be ready to go maybe one level deeper. If you're applying to a company, research the company. Find out what their business is. Find out what they do and how you can relate to that. Troll your potential interviewers. If you can find out who's going to interview you, maybe they're most likely going to be out in the public. Check them out on LinkedIn. Check out their interests. Check out their hobbies, because it's very helpful. If you get stuck in a bind, you can always start talking about common interests. Many times, I could have a not so warm relationship with a coworker in a different department. But other times, if I find out, oh, they play basketball like me, fantastic, let's go play ball. And the relationship gets a whole lot stronger. And working with them is so much easier and more collaborative. And you might find the same in your interactions. General interview questions, know them. There are lots of lists out there. I know I don't expect you to read all of them. I don't read either. But just scour the web. Find general interview questions, things that I ask, things I want to know. Can you work well with others? Can you work as an individual? Tell me about your strengths and weaknesses. Where do you see yourself X number or N number of years from now? So I can see, hey, you don't want to just do this. You have aspirations, you have ambitions. Talk about the work that you're most proud of. And right now it could be a school project. It could be learning a particular technology. And I'd want to know, how do you keep up with technology? What do you read? What do you look at? How do you do research? And that's just a link to where you can find some standard interview questions. Let's see how we're doing on time. Okay. Software development. So these are very software development specific. If I'm interviewing entry-level or junior-level candidates, these are my go-tos. I want to know, do you know object-oriented programming? Do you know standard, well-known architectures? You don't have to know it in detail, but to be able to say, yes, I know what that means, or yes, I recognize that. Design patterns. Do you know what these are? And you know what? During interviews, you're going to be asked a lot of things, and it's okay to say, no, I don't know, but I know how to get that answer, and I'll get back to you. And if you do say that, make sure you correspond and give them that answer. That correspondence is an opportunity not only to say thank you for your time, but if you found that maybe there was some weakness in some answers, it's a perfect opportunity to reinforce those answers. Be prepared to code. I hated that. I hated it, but it becomes fun when you practice it, when you're prepared. So these are the standard things that you can expect me to ask you. And I might ask you, yeah, can you just code on the whiteboard? So some examples: recursion, factorial problem, Fibonacci, solve Fibonacci sequence, FizzBuzz, old and tried and true. Is that right? Yeah, maybe I can do the coding with you. Come prepared, mastering, or at least knowing one language really well. Know that language really well, because if the interviewer is like me, I don't care whether you don't know or know a particular language, as long as you have mastered one. It's all related. And consider learning JavaScript. If you haven't touched it already, definitely look into it. Why JavaScript? It's ubiquitous. It is everywhere and it's used in everything. It's the #1 programming language on GitHub. #1. I used to think, JavaScript, that's not a real language, it's just scripting. It is just everywhere. It's the language of choice for programming HTML and web programming. Find out what the typical questions for JavaScript is. I mean, I've gone into an interview and I said, well, I'm not an expert. It's not my day in, day out coding, but I at least know the concepts. Be prepared to do that. There are a lot of frameworks and libraries that are geared towards JavaScript, so just know that they exist and have a fundamental idea of what they are. Let's see, how am I doing on time? Relational database fundamentals. Again, this is something I'll ask a candidate. Do you know the concepts? And I'm not going to rattle off all of them, but I'll also ask a candidate, hey, can you draw me, ERD stands for entity relationship diagram. Can you draw me a diagram for example, an organization chart? A scenario I'll ask for is, you have employees report to managers can be employees, and then managers report to managers as well. So I'll look for, hey, what does that diagram look like? Another example is shopping cart. Everybody knows what a shopping cart is, right? An online shopping cart. What does that look like? Draw that diagram for me. What are the entities? What are the relationships? Hopefully everybody here has some database classes. If they're software developers, they've taken some database. If not,
I would never get a job.
if not, it's all on the web. No methodologies. Chris touched on a lot of, the methodologies, agile methodologies, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to start going a little bit faster because of the time. Scour the web, and when you're preparing for an interview, scour the web. Scour the web for questions. Look for technology-specific questions. Look for questions from Google, Facebook, Amazon, Twitter, Microsoft, LinkedIn. They ask very comprehensive, very specific things. They also ask about some weird non-programming questions, so they're just interesting to know about. Something about a burning rope, stuff like that. So trying to wind this down, what's been influential for me in my software development? As of late, it's been the Kaizen. Continuous learning, continuous improvement, and applying that not only in software development, but almost everything that I do. Agile methodologies, Chris touched upon this. He talked quite a bit about lean methodologies and MVP, minimum viable product. Back in the day, and this could just be a few years ago, and many companies still do it, people use waterfall methodology, where they try to gather all the requirements up front, do all the design and the architecture up front, and then they'll spend up to a year building a product without putting it in front of the client or the end user. By the time they put it in front of the end user is most likely going to say, what? That's not what I wanted. It could be exactly what they asked for, But until you show it to a user, they start using it, they start touching it, they start working with it, they're not going to know exactly what they want. So like Chris mentioned, the sooner you make that feedback happen, the better it's going to be. Test-driven development and unit testing. That was critical to my personal development and me building higher quality software. And I go into a little bit of detail in that, as well as dependency injection. It's going to sound like blah, 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 but because I've been talking too long, so I'm going to just go through it a little bit quicker. So test-driven development, or TDD, and unit testing. Anybody familiar with it at all? Awesome. What is it? Well, it increases code quality. And the concept is you write a test. Let's say you have to write some functionality. Well, the first thing you do is write a test. You write that test, you run it, and you watch it fail. Then you write some code to what you really want to achieve. Once you wrote that, a little bit of code, you make that test pass. And then you repeat the process. Oh, I need more functionality? Let me write a test to say it's got to do this. Run your test, see it fail, write the code to make it pass, see it pass. And you repeat the process. It improves your code quality. It helps you change things. Changing meaning refactor or improve your code and give you confidence in that, hey, I made that change, but I have these tests to tell me, you know what, I didn't break anything. So imagine if you do this in various areas of your code and you have a big code base, and if you didn't do this, you make a little change, you're going to go, oh. You might say, I don't want to touch that area. Anytime I touch it, all these different things break. This gives you, that level of reassurance. So can you guys handle a demo? Are we doing okay? Because I can stop. I want to make sure I still have you. So bear with me. The demo is very simplistic. Very simplistic. We're looking at Visual Studio. It's the IDE for Microsoft Technologies. And let's make believe someone, oh, sorry. Thank you. So let's make believe that someone told me to write something super complex, super difficult, even though it's not. In our case, it's going to be factorial. Someone wants me to write a function to compute or calculate the factorial. Everybody familiar with factorial? If not, maybe somebody can help me. What is factorial? It's basically if I have a number, if the number is n, it's n times n minus 1 times n minus 2, et cetera, et cetera. So if I give you 4, I ask you for 4 factorial, it's 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. The other aspect that you need to know about factorial is 0 factorial is 1, 1 factorial is 1 also. So for the software guys, we like to see this in the interview because, one, it shows that, hey, you can actually write some code, even though it's a simplistic problem. And two, this involves recursion. One way of solving this factorial is recursion, so a function calling itself. So how would we get started? These are my cheat notes, just in case things go bad and things go a little bit too long. Because I'm running long on time, let me use my cheat notes. So what you see here, it says, hey, there's no implementation for my factorial function. Let me start implementing it. And before I do, I'm going to write a test. So my test says, factorial of 0 returns 0. And this is what it does. This assert says, hey, is that true? When I call factorial, do I get, returns 1. So I can now go run that test, and I'll see it fail. If it doesn't fail, I'm done. I'm walking out because there's no code. So let me satisfy that test. And I'll say return, I'll simplistically return 1, right? Of course, that's not the full solution, but hey, let's see if it can make me happy, give me some love, show me a green light. Sorry. Cancel. Stop. Trying to move too quickly. Go away. Okay, let's try that again. Run the test. Carefully click. Yeah, there it is. All right, I got a green light. Yay, I got the factorial of 0. Well, now I can add some more tests. I needed to do more, right? I want the factorial of 1 to return 1. So that's another test. So you can see the process. Write my test, run my test. Initially, watch my test fail, and this better fail. Now it's going to return. You didn't see that. I'll add some code. So that's a false positive. So that's a no good. Let's make believe that failed. And I'll start adding some real code. So if number is less than 1, I want to return 1. Otherwise, we'll figure out what we should do. For now, I'm going to throw exception. All right. So make believe that's what I did to make it pass. And now both my tests are going to pass. Now it's going to fail. It's always a challenge running live code. But the idea, you kind of see the idea, hopefully, even though I'm failing miserably. You write some test, get the test to fail, write some code, get it to pass. And now I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to take the full solution and copy and paste. And you're going to forgive me, and I'll beg for forgiveness unendingly. Oh, yes.
So when you interview candidates, do you make them do it?
No. Absolutely not. I'll make them write the function. I'll make them write the function, and if the function's not working like mine, I'll even point out. I'll give some assistance and say, maybe you want to do this, or consider doing this instead.
Is that really bad though if your function doesn't work?
Sorry?
Like, is that really bad during an interview if your function?
I don't think so. What's bad is if I try to help you and you're not open to my assistance. Yeah. Or if if you get so nervous, like me, I can get nervous and start just going really, really south. That would be bad. And right now, it's pretty bad for me. There is. So it depends. It depends on the interview process. I have been given online. Think of it as an exam. They'll send me a link, and this is a pre-screen interview. They'll send me a link, and they'll send me to a site. The site will give me a task to code. Online, it'll ask me to write the code with a time limit. Usually it's an hour, and you can't stop once you start it. And the code has to compile, and once you're ready, you submit it, and it goes to the interviewer, and they assess your code. So that's the only time where there's a time limit. But certainly, if it's a simple problem and you're taking hours to do, as long as it's within reason, it would not be a problem. So let's try that again, and let's run the test. This ran much better when I did it this morning in my office. And they're still failing. Yeah, I apologize. But you kind of get the idea, and I'm going to spare you now, and I'll move on. I wish that would have gone much, much better. All right, back to the slides. Pros and cons. The pros, yeah, I didn't demonstrate it, but it certainly has helped me write better code in the past and present. It kept me from breaking code. What did I say? I use it today when I code very focused pieces of functionality, focused methods, focused classes. It's very useful especially when it's input in and you can test the output. So information in, information out, is very testable. Well-written tests also document functionality. It's almost self-documenting code. There are cons, just like anything else. You don't want to use it dogmatically. It's not a silver bullet. It's not for everything. Sometimes you have systems, dependencies that are difficult to test. It's almost not worth it to do a unit test. It's better to do a different type of test. And we'll talk a little bit about that. And the practice, sorry? 2 more minutes. I better speed up. Practice is not easy, as I've demonstrated. That was the whole key, especially if you're not used to it. Comprehensive testing is comprised of unit testing, integration testing, which is, test across systems, as well as UI automation testing. So UI automation actually drives, if you're writing a web application, it'll drive the browser as if a user is clicking it and testing the results. This one, I wish I had more than 2 minutes because I know this one would have gone really smoothly. But it's the concept of dependency injection. What is it? So let's say I have an object and it has a dependency inside. Most of the time, without dependency injection, the object that contains it will also create its dependency, create its own dependency. Dependency injection or inversion control says, let me take that out of this object, and instead I'll supply you your dependency. It sounds like blah, blah, blah to the non-programmers. It might sound like blah, blah, blah to the programmers, but afterwards I can demonstrate it to you because I'm running out of time. Benefits of this: easily and consistently manage dependencies across systems even. It makes your code more reusable, maintainable, and it makes the code easier to test. I'm going to spare you the demo because I'm running out of time. But I promise you that one would have went really well. Questions and answers. Any questions? You are now full stack developers.
Are your slides available to, or
I can make them available, yeah.
it'd be great to see all those.
All the blah, blah, blah?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I can certainly share it with you.
Real quickly, do you look for like 3 to 5 years of previous experience at a software company, or right out of college? Or?
It depends on the level. So entry level, I don't care. Zero experience. Most candidates now, you'll see their experience in the projects that they do on their own, or the things they've done maybe even before college.
Do you generally hire contract to direct hire?
We're so small right now, we do primarily direct hire. In the past, different companies, we have done contract to hire. Most of the time when that's done, it's through a recruiting firm. Yes? Campus Logic.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much.
Nice meeting you.
Likewise.